Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TechPH.org's online Saturday session. So again, thank you so much for everyone who are joining us today. So maraming salamat to you all, and please, just a reminder, you can like and share the video, and just to make sure that we are able to reach as many people as we can. So for today's online Saturday session, we have Mosqueriola. Sana hindi magalit si Riel. Maybe I murdered her last name, pero uh, she will talk about product design mindset today, this afternoon. And she formerly worked for Grab as a product designer. And for those who have questions while the session is ongoing, you can just leave them in the comment section, and we'll try to get to all of your questions by the end of the session. And like any other sessions in the past, this session will be available on our YouTube channel. So please don't forget to also subscribe, and maybe you can share them as well. So that's TechPH.org. Simply search TechPH.org on YouTube and you'll find us there. And click subscribe, click reminder on our live events, and all our videos will be saved there for your future reference. And again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you can do a watch party sa mga groups nyo, please do so. And if you have, again, questions, comments, feel free to use the comment section. And I would like to thank first in, good morning, mm, Miss Ulit Buenavente, Sherwin. Thank you for us. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And so again, today we have Marielle. Riel, how are you today?
Good. Thank you, Luis, for setting this up. So yeah, I'm excited to share this topic to you guys.
All right. So thank you so much to Riel for joining us. And let me just pull up your presentation here. Okay. So again, guys, if you have any question, comment section is the place to go. So for those who are watching us after this live event, if you found the video on YouTube while you're searching for a product design, or if you just followed or joined our community on Facebook, you can still comment your questions. Kahit hindi na live yung video, you can always use the comment section to send in your questions. I will get a notification and I will send it to Riel or someone in the field of product design so that you can get the best answer possible. And then maybe later, Riel will also introduce you to some of the communities. I will introduce you to some of the communities as well, who are more than happy to help you with your journey in learning product design. All right. So yeah, without further ado, the floor is yours, Riel. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Luis. Okay, so hello everyone. For those who are joining, so maybe the good way to start is to introduce myself. So I am Riel. I am a product designer for more than 6 years. So basically, maybe I'll just share a bit about myself. So formerly, I worked with Grab as product designer. So I work in Grab Food as a growth designer, and eventually I moved into Grab Express, yun yung parcel delivery ni Grab. And I work both in the passenger side and the driver side. So yeah, so I did design different initiatives dun sa two streams na yon. Apart from that is way back then, during my university days, I graduated with computer science degree. So, pero eventually, nung nagtapos ako mag-aral, I end up being a designer. So, kasi whenever I see codes na hihilo ako, I don't understand them. So, yon. And apart from that, since sa pag-usapan natin university, is I'm from the Sarang Munting Prinsesa and Judy Abbott era. So, so kung meron man dyan who is watching, na alam nyo tong mga tao na to, well, we're on the same club, we're on the same year. And ayun, though my favorite part is Mojako, my favorite cartoon character, way back then. And lastly is sa university as well, along Espanya, ang way ko to survive every lunch and prelims week or finals week ay yung shomai rice. So that is the perfect food that fits the budget. So basically yun yung personal side of me. And for today, I'll be sharing with you an interesting topic that I've been doing for the past 6 years, and that is basically about the product design mindset. So, in this topic, we will have a sneak peek of how actually product designers think. Ano bang nasa utak nila? Uh, how do they, ano yung mga chaos na nasa mind nila whenever they design products. So, this is based on my experience and also from my learnings. So, if there's anyone of you guys watching na may madadagdag pa, feel free to leave your comments sa comment section. And also, I don't bite. You can ask your questions. I'll be glad to answer them. So, to start off with, the biggest question we have in mind is, what is product design? So, meron bang anyone who wants to answer? Feel free to leave your comments. So, ano bang ibig sabihin ng product design? So, maybe I'll leave a few seconds and then I'll continue. So, when we say product design, on simple terms, una kong naisip actually is you design product. Kasi product design nga. Pero there's actually more than the product design itself. And if you're a product designer, there are actually two things na importante. And those two things are actually the product sense and the design sense. So ano ba tong, sorry, what are these sense? It doesn't make sense to me. So I'll explain further about these two senses, and I'll start first with the design sense. So pabaliktad tayo. I'll start first with the last one. So when we talk about design sense, it actually covers the different disciplinaries of design. So one is that pag sinasabing meron kang design sense is you actually have the ability to know what is a good design or a bad design visually. You are knowledgeable about font hierarchies, color schemes, adding contrast and dynamics sa buong layout. So ito yung, yeah, so basically visuals. So ito rin yung mga nakikita natin sa mga job description whenever we're looking for a job, yung mga, you should have an eye for design. Apart from that is another discipline is the microcopy. So you might ask for the new in product design, what is microcopy? Microcopy is what you see, ito yung mga content that you see in the buttons, yung mga error messages. So there's a thought, there's a process of how you can create those microcopies. It's also relevant to copywriting. Another discipline is interaction design. When you have a design sense that is about interaction design, you think about, if I click this button, will an error message pop up? Will it go to a new page? If I click the back button, dapat ba bumalik siya sa previous page? Or yeah, ano yung mangyayari if this person interacts to this app? Another one is information architecture. So information architecture, it talks about how do you organize the information inside a website or an application. So you have to do some, maybe card sorting, may mga iba't ibang frameworks. So you can definitely search for it kung ano yung mga ibig sabihin nito. And also part of this design sense is the user research. Why? Kasi design is not just about the aesthetics. Design is actually naging malaki na yung ibig sabihin ng design. It's about problem solving, marami ng bagay. And for you to be able to solve a problem, you have to understand your users, especially if you're designing for digital products, like say you're designing for Facebook, for Grab, for for Airbnb. So, and lastly is uh, part of design sense is the user experience design. Actually, marami pang designs that we can include in here. Pero ito lang yung mga hinighlight ko. So user experience design is actually a process wherein you try to meet the user's needs. You think about, your goal is to provide them with an experience na efficient, na usable, user-friendly. So there's a lot of thinking that happens whenever you do user experience design. So in a nutshell, ano ba talaga yung design sense? So design sense is actually your ability to design that meets the user's needs and creates an experience which is usable, understandable, and efficient. And it can happen through what? By integrating those different design disciplines. So siguro gusto ko lang magbigay ng highlight na design sense is not just meeting the user's needs. We have to make sure na it creates an experience na ano, it should be usable, understandable, and efficient. Kahit na ma-meet mo yung user needs, but then they end up being frustrated, then yeah, I mean, it doesn't work. The design won't work. So that's design sense. So now that we have somehow a hint, ano ba yung itong another aspect of product design, let us now move to the product sense. So siguro magkakaroon ako ng quick activity as we go to the product sense, which is this one. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, pero Facebook has this feature. It's called Save, wherein you can save links, you can save places, and sa third photo you can save ano ba to? Pages like The Walking Dead, or you can save groups. So I'll just let you quickly look into this. So ito yung new feature. So now moving to the next slide is I have few questions I want you guys to answer or just to think about. One is this one. Why did Facebook launch the save feature? So try to think about it. Bakit kaya si Facebook naisip nila na okay, magkaroon tayo ng save feature to be used by our users? Okay? Then my next question is, for whom was it built for? Sino kayang bakit para kanino at sino kayang gagamit nito? Third is, what is Facebook aiming for when they launch the save feature? So I'll just leave out a few seconds for those who want to answer. So for the first one is, why did Facebook launch the save feature? Ano kayang reason nila of launching it? It could be a reason of there's actually a need. There are some users who are na nakausap nila and telling them na, hey, I keep searching for this post na nakita ko previously. Is there a way kaya na makip ko sila in view? So it could be something that sprung out of a user research or from the feedback they received. Then for whom was it built for? It is built for Facebook users, definitely, but also for those users who find the need for them to save photos or to save links, places, etc. So that they can keep going back dito sa mga sinisave nila. And next is, ano kayong aim nila? Aim ni Facebook in launching this feature. One of the aim could be they want to increase the engagement. Na the more you save, it brings engagement to users, and also it could be retention. Now, for our users to be in the app continuously, if we introduce save feature, then they have something to keep coming back for. So in that case, ma-retain nila yung users. So with these questions, okay, so paano siya naging relate sa product sense? As you can see of how we structured the questions, hindi na siya very design or user-centered. It's mostly about the product or the feature. Na bakit siya ni-launch, sino yung mga gagamit, and ano yung goal natin for this product. So nagigets ba natin na that's the product sense and earlier was the design sense. Now when you talk about the product sense, ano na that's the time wherein you talk holistically, you think holistically. It's not just about the insides, which is the design and the users, but you think of the product as a whole. So in short, product sense is the ability for you to grasp the big picture problem. There is a problem, you break it down to digestible chunks, and you convert them to product solutions. So that is a product sense. And if we get to combine product and design together, according kay Martha Bergman, ay product design is creating products that meet the needs of the users through the different disciplines, which is mentioned here. And it is basically about problem solving. So product design at its core is it's a matter of problem solving and design thinking. So it is actually so ito na yung pumapasok na it's just not about the product per se and the design per se, but it's about there's something that you have to solve, and so you design and create a solution for it. So for us to fully understand yung product design, na hindi lang siya the design sense and the product sense. I would like us to learn further about the 5 mindsets of product designers. So as I've mentioned, hindi lang siya 5. I mean, definitely marami pa siya. And if you guys have anything to share or to add on with these 5 mindsets, feel free to do so. And so for these 5 mindsets, I will walk you through each and also give examples. And okay, so let's start. So what is the first mindset of a product designer? The first and most important is you have to design with why. So you have that big question of bakit magde-design or bakit kita i-design. And for you to know design with why, for you to have the design with why, the important thing you have to do is what? To ask the right questions. Questions such as, what are we trying to solve? So let's imagine a scenario wherein you are with, let's say, a marketing person or a product manager or a project manager, and then mayroon binigay na, okay, we have this new client, we have this new feature, and we will design this and we will build this. So the first thing you have to ask is, what are we trying to solve? Ano yung problema natin? Then the next is, why should it be solved? So, bakit kailangan mo siyang tanongin, yung part na why should it be solved? Reason is because there are actually some problems which can be solved through time. Diba sabi nga ay, time heals all wounds, sabi nila. So the same thing with with the problems. Na hindi porket may problema is we have to solve it immediately. We have to ask, bakit natin siya kailangang i-solve? Is there an impact with ano ba, revenue? Is it a really big pain point na na sinasabi ng mga users natin? And so on and so forth. Third question is, for whom are we building it? So this is the point wherein you ask, sino bang gagamit nito? Ano bang mga behaviors ng mga users? Kung bakit nila kailangan tong product na to or itong feature nito, na to. Fourth is, what would be the impact of the feature? So again, para rin siyang, ito naman yung parang part na pumapasok yung product sense. Na for you to really design with why, it all starts with throwing out or voicing out the right questions. Because it helps you as you do your work as a product designer. So basically, that's a design with why. And lastly is, this is a bonus question that you can ask your PMs is, what does the roadmap look like? So pag natapos natin tong feature na to or tong product na to, what's next? Do we iterate? Do we kill it once we don't meet the metrics? Yeah, anong mangyayari susunod? And I believe if you're working with really great, I mean, with good PMs, they should be able to answer all these questions. They are the ones who would educate you or give you all the answers that you need. So now that the first step is design with why, our next mindset is design with North Star, but execute in phases. So when we say North Star is, well, hindi lang siya between, but more than that is North Star is actually the ideal state of your design. It's like you're shooting for the moon and the stars. How would it look like ideally? Let's say there's no technical constraints, there's no timeline in mind, na as if you can design with a ano the design has no limits. So in this part, I will show you some frameworks of how you can design with North Star, and later I will explain to you yung part na why should I execute in phases. So one way of you can design with North Star is through what they call design thinking. So design thinking, this is also something I've used during my early days, and I think it would be helpful for any product designer na starting sa industry. So the design thinking here is actually composed of 5 phases. We have empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. So with empathize, definitely it means about empathizing or knowing your users. This can be done through research, through testings, through talking to them. And yung define naman is where you define the problem which you are trying to solve. So this is where the part you can have the scope and limitations. So kung titingnan natin yung empathize and define, para siyang, ano rin eh, it's about the having the product sense. But when we move to the third part, which is ideate, this is the part wherein you can go wild. I mean, wild with your ideas. You can, when you already know the problem, you start thinking, ano bang pwede nating solusyon to answer these problems. And under ideation, I can give you like two frameworks as well that you can use. So one is we have how might we. So how might we, or short for HMW, this is a way wherein you frame the problem in such a way that it doesn't become a problem, but rather it is becoming an opportunity. So an example that I have here is, let's say yung problem natin ay users spend XX amount of time in searching for posts that they've seen previously. But if we apply how might we, paano siya magbabago? The how might we would be, how might we help our users to quickly find posts they've seen before? So in this case, nakikita natin yung shift of mindset na instead of looking at the problem as it is, we get to change it into how might we, which encourages us to think about opportunities or what would be the solutions. Parang ang good example nito ay ang problema mo, wala kang pera, pero kapag tinanim mo siya to how might we ay, ah, ano kayang pwede kong gawin para magkapera? Or paano kayang paraan ang pwede kong gawin para magkaroon ng pera? So it ano, parang it helps you to start thinking different way of solutions kasi naging opportunity na siya. So in this case, kung yung problem natin ay users spend daw excess amount of time in searching for posts and yung how might we natin ay how might we help them to quickly find posts that they've seen before. One way could be, yeah, to thinking out loud, it could be what? A recent searches. You add that component in your search. Or another is save functionality, katulad ni Facebook, na siguro nakita nila na they have, na yung behavior ng users nila ay, pag may nakita silang post, let's say yesterday, at binalikan nila today, they would use the search engine to type for some keywords and then para mahanap nila yung previous post. So that's one framework that you can use for ideation. Then another uh, framework that you can do as well is brainstorming. So si brainstorming, this can be done, they use post-its. So it's basically you putting your head out there, posting your thoughts, just going wild and crazy. And I mean, there's no wrong or right answers when you do the brainstorming. It's more of a very collaborative work wherein you get to see other people's perspective of how would they solve it and what could be the possible solutions. So it's a good way of ideating and finding solutions to your problems. So with those two frameworks, so there are a lot of frameworks out there too. There's also called, they say, whiteboarding. So marami pang iba. So that's the ideate part. And the next part is the prototype. So the prototype is, this is where you start designing the low fidelity, high fidelity, or even creating the prototype itself, which is interactable. So what do I mean when I say kanina na design with North Star but execute in phases? The reason why I'm saying na you should execute in phases is because if you go to your, let's say, product managers or project managers and give them out your whole ideal state of your design, and they have a 3 months time in their timeline, definitely they would say no. So as product designers, your goal is to have the North Star blueprint in your mind, but then you have to chunk it down to phases and then go to your PM and say that, hey, this is the design I've worked on, something I'm looking into, and this is, I'm thinking how I would chunk it into phases. And let's collaborate if all of these are feasible. So that's the part you collaborate with your PMs and validating kung kaya ba ng team and so on and so forth. So in that case, sabi ko nga dito, basically you don't just shoot for the moon and stars. You have to plan how you'll get there. So it's this part of designing with North Star but execute in phases is a big characteristic, I think, in a product designers should have. Na hindi lang siya basta, okay, design ako, the sky is the limit. And then when PMs tell you na let's go for MVP, it is sabi nga nila it's their turn to ano ba, to trash your work. You feel bad. Kasi in reality, PMs also work with times in their mind. So mostly they only have 3 months. So siguro for in my experience, yung pinaka mabilis na turnaround ko was I have to design for 2 days and then engineers will develop it for 2 weeks. So kung iisipin mo yon as a product designer, you have to think critically what are the features or the functionalities na kaya lang gawin ng design, ng engineers mo in 2 weeks time. So that's our second point, which is design with the North Star, but execute in phases. So let me just look if there's any question. Okay. Cool. So now we're done with our first two mindset. My third one is you have to design with extremes. So what do you mean by design with extremes? So there I'll be giving you guys siguro 2 to 3 examples of when we say extremes. One is there's what we call localization. So example of localization is when the app or the digital product that you are designing for is being deployed in different countries. So for example, ano ba? For example, si Facebook. I mean, it's not just being, alam mo yun, used by Filipinos or from people in US. It's not always English. It can be Indonesian language, Thai language, and so on and so forth. So, ano ngayon yung problema if you didn't design with extremes in mind? So, let's have an example in here. So, dito, ito yung button if it is in English format, which is view basket. So, ano ngayon yung itsura kapag nilocalize ito at ginawang bahasa, Indonesia? It would be in this format. So, if we look at it, actually, okay, parang wala namang problema. Pero ang problem is that because the button is not scalable enough, yung mga padding sa gilid or yung space sa left and right ng button is shrinking kasi humaba yung text. So, I hope nagigets natin yan. So, sa view basket, there is enough padding sa left and right. But then when it was translated or na-localized na, lumiit na kasi the button is not scalable enough. So actually merong iba so ang straightforward tip doon ay you have to design in such a way that it's scalable and it's not easy. So for here what you can do is create long buttons para ma-accommodate yung long text. But other than that I you have to think uh more scalable wherein you can tell your engineers na hey instead of making the button width yung haba ng button fixed na let's say 100 px lang, you can put it in such a way na yung button na to won't be fixed in terms of width, pero let's have 8 pixels padding left and right. So para kahit humaba man yung text, meron ka pa ring 8 pixels padding sa both left and right. So, and also there are some um, part rin na they solve localization by truncating the long text. Kunyari, humaba yung pangalan. Tinatruncate nila using ellipses. Which I think sometimes meron siyang bad effect kasi what if, let's say, that specific long text is very important to users and then you truncate it using ellipses. And in that case, it would, parang magbibigay siya ng negative effect kasi you're uh, letting your users miss out a very important information. So that's one kind of extreme, which is localization. Another kind of extreme is users. So syempre, the thing is that if you can design for the extremes, then you can design for the norm. So ito siguro yung mga noteworthy na we should think of to think about who are the extreme users of the product that I'm designing. So siguro let's have a case study. So hi Greta, good afternoon as well. So now let me move. So ano bang okay na. So now for the case study is let's imagine we are about to design for an app that sends parcels from point A to point B. So ito nakuha ko lang siya sa Dribble. So we have a pickup and a delivery point. So here are our users. One, we have what we call individual senders. Individual senders ay they send item to one person. Yun yung behavior nila. Second is what we call corporate senders. What they do is they are the people who work in bank, they work in maybe post office, or they work in corporates. And they send important documents to one person or to one destination. And lastly is we have what we call social sellers. Social sellers they send products to their customers of multiple locations. So in this case, my question is, what is our extreme case, or who is our extreme users? So I'll wait for if there's anyone who wants to answer. So in this part, our extreme users are actually the social sellers. Why? Because they have this behavior wherein they want to send out to multiple users or to multiple locations. So in that case, from this point A to point B design, you have to think of a way that makikater mo yung social sellers na behavior, which is they're sending to multiple locations. And how you can do that? Well, it's up. Maybe you can add a multi-stop delivery, wherein user can simply click on add, and it adds more and more drop of locations. So that could be the way. So yes, tama ka, Raymond. It's social sellers. So now that we know about that second extreme, which is the extreme users, another one is designing with accessibility and inclusion in mind. So one example is something I found in Trello. So makikita natin ay si Trello ay isa siyang paano ba? It's an organizing app na so they have different parang hindi siyang Jira. So it's too hard for me to explain. But basically, in this example is they have different colors for labels, and they make it very colorblind friendly. And how they do it is by using different patterns. So it helps the colorblind users to see the difference of each color using the patterns. And another way, so far, the simplest way you can do as well accessibility is by making your text readable. So, so for example, this one. Are you guys being able to read this? How about this? So in this case, we are solving accessibility or designing with accessibility in mind by making the text easier to read and having a more contrast from the background by using white text and bold font style. And another thing I saw as well for accessibility and inclusion is for Facebook, they have this like you can choose what pronoun you want to use. So hindi na siya very gender specific, so it's up to you. So these are some good examples of designing with extremes. Okay, so now let me so basically, we have the design with Y, we have design with North Star, but execute in phases, and we have design with extremes. So our fourth design mindset, product design mindset is design with consistency. So when we say design with consistency, so I'll be giving another, maybe three frameworks. For consistency per se, hindi lang siya about making the font style consistent. Or hindi lang din siya about making color consistent na kapag blue yung button, blue rin yung button, or kapag yung warning sign ay red icon, it should be red icon. It's not just contained into that uh, thought or notion. So one framework is what we call don't reinvent the wheel. So let's look at the photo here at the right of the screen. So we can see now we have, let's say, this existing pattern. The existing pattern is meron kang image sa left and meron kang title and subtitle sa baba, which is holiday cheers for everyone today, and then fuel today yung subtitle mo sa baba. And then sinabi sa'yo na we have to design in such a way na we have to design for articles. So minsan yung initial notion yung initial thought ng mga tao ay okay, kailangan ko mag-design kaagad ng new component. And they would go using this kind of style or this kind of style. But the thing is that you have to look around first and check yung mga design components na in-implement mo implement and tingnan mo kung ano ba yung pwede mong i-utilize. So instead of you alam mo yun, instead of you wasting time creating a new design component, or instead of you also wasting your engineer's time to really craft a new design component, better yet, I mean, take a step back and then look ano ba yung mga existing patterns and utilize them. So in this case, instead of going through this first two routes, then it's just simple. You can use the existing pattern and copy the style. So parang dito ay uh, if you see that the existing pattern serves the same functionality of what you need, then do it so. You utilize the existing pattern. So what is another framework that we have in mind? Oh, so before that, siguro magkaroon tayo ng case study. So this one, we have the first screen is a driver's rating. You can rate your driver for you can rate your driver. So ito ay under transport. So this is Grab Transport and yung kabila is from Grab Food. So ngayon, yung project natin, let's say, you have to design for Grab, for another services of Grab, wherein you have to utilize some of the components. So in this case, in your end, ano kaya yung mga pwede nating i-utilize dito na components? And especially that these two things or these two screens are quite different. So see, I'll wait for some answers if you have any. So in this case, if we're going to design it, what I'll be using is from the Grab Transport one. Why? So bakit? So kung tignan natin dito, hindi na ako nag-isip pa ng ibang component. I just used Grab Transport. Why? The reason is for me, as I mentioned earlier, di ba we were talking about scalability. For this need, it's important na I get to use a component na scalable, which can handle really long text. Like for this one, price paid is different from fare shown. And if I utilize the pill UI, magkakaroon ako ng problema kasi pag humaba ng humaba, kailangan kong isipin ano na yung magiging itsura of how I can make it scale. So in this one, I made it consistent in such a way that I utilize an existing component. So let's have another example. So let's say, so to another rating and tipping ulit. So this is again from Grab Transport and this is from Grab Food. So ngayon ay among these two styles, which is one using the horizontal scrolling, you can continuously scroll to choose for a compliment to give to your driver, and versus a UI peel. So in your case, what you guys would be choosing? So hi Glenn, good afternoon as well. So if you have any answers, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Okay, so in this part, what we will be utilizing is it's the same style na badges, but wait, I'm not using a horizontal scroll, but rather I'm using a grid view. So, okay, Riel, I mean, you say be consistent, pero bakit it becomes now different? Bakit hindi naging consistent bigla? So, dito yung part na we have to, I mean, not just follow or not just don't reinvent the wheel, but actually we can refine the wheel. So ito yun. Don't reinvent the wheel, but you can refine the wheel. If there's something that can be improved, then go ahead and make it better. The reason why we opted for having the grid view is because it gives users a more overview of the different complements. That's one. And second is we are catering to the user scrolling behavior, which is scrolling up and down. And if I utilize the horizontal scroll, then medyo magkakaroon ng difficulty, especially if let's say 10 10 yung gusto kong ipakita na complements. So in that case, so one, yes, you design with consistency in mind. But second, you have to again ask yourself, is this something that will make my user's life easy, efficient, and will they understand it? So iba-iba siya, no? Iba-iba siya for the need. So, hindi ko pwedeng sabihin na ganito yung dinesign nila, mali yun kasi hindi nag-work sa akin. We can't say that kasi each user has their own need. So, next is this video. So, first we have don't reinvent the wheel. Then second is you can refine the wheel. And third is this one. So let me go ahead and play. So I want to show you about the other day I was trying to order sa Food Panda, and then I saw this restaurant, si Platypus Cantina. So let's say I want to order from this restaurant, and then now I saw the different sets of meals and they have. So let's say I want to order for this Cantina Chicken BLT. So it pops out a new screen wherein I can choose different variations. So I'll choose Coke Classic, and then now I move ahead, and then I want to order for some there tacos. So before I choose, I'll be choosing masa corn tacos. But in your mind, what do you think could happen once I click it? Will it show kaya a new set of screen, or will it go to checkout? What could be the next thing to happen? So I'll wait if there's any answer. Okay, so let's see then. So I choose masa corn tacos. Let's see what would happen. So there, so it, oops, sorry. So it led me to, let me move it a bit. It led me to another screen. Katulad lang nung behavior earlier, right? Labas siya ng new screen wherein I can choose yeah, I can choose toppings or I think fillings inside. So in this case, I'll go choose the gambas, the grilled shrimp. And then lastly, I'm looking now for some pastas. So let's find the pasta. Okay, there. So in here, I'll go have the shrimp again. So before I click this one, and my question is still the same. What do you think could happen once I click it? Will it again open a new screen? Will it go to somewhere else? So let's see. So there, I click actually the shrimp and spinach poblan, I don't know. But then what happened is, meron lumalabas na number sa taas. So nag-i-increment yung quantity. So it kind of frustrates me kasi my previous behavior ay whenever I click a dish, laging may new screen na lumalabas, tama? But then when I click the shrimp, this particular dish, wala nang screen na lumalabas. Hindi na siya naging consistent. Kasi nangyayari, nag-i-increment na lang yung quantity. And in order for me to remove this, kasi naging filling na yung quantity is, I have to view my cart and then remove it from my cart. So yun yung nangyari. So when we don't design with consistency, it frustrates our users na bakit in my case, bakit hindi na nag-open ng new screen? Bakit ang nangyari ay nag-increment na lang yung quantity. So there's this good quote from Jacob Nielsen na sabi niya ay, consistency is one of the most powerful usability principles. When things always behave the same, users don't have to worry about what will happen. So if we don't design with consistency in mind, ang problema ngayon ay possible na maging inconsistent trend at magkaroon ng anxious sa side ng mga users kasi pag clinic ko pala itong let's say particular button, it's not always going to a new screen. Maraming posibleng mangyari. So that's the fourth one, design with consistency. And now let me move to the final point, which is design with deliverables. But in here, it's not about designing with deliverables, but it is designing with delivery in mind. Okay, so how is, I mean, I don't get it real. Bakit, ano yung deliverables and ano yung delivery? So I'll go and differentiate these two things. So what is the difference of deliverable and delivery? One deliverable is actually, sabi sa Google, so sinearch ko lang siya. Deliverable is a thing able to be provided, especially as a product of a development process. So medyo very technical siya. While on the other hand, delivery is the supply or provision of something. So to make our lives easier, let's just look on two main keywords. We have for deliverable, it's a thing, and for delivery, it's about supply or provision. When we say deliverable sa world of product design, it means it's actually the wireframes, the sketches, the prototype, the mock-ups, the high fidelity. It's a thing. It's something that you provide. Na kapag natapos yung buong initiative or buong feature, parang tanan, you have the design. It's a thing. It's deliverable. On the other hand, delivery, highlight ko yung supply or provision. If we look of what's the meaning of provision, it means to make something of use. And now my question is, are the mockups or are the prototypes something that our users is using? The answer is no. Dahil the only thing that the users use is a product that is already in deployment or it's something launched na nandun na it went live. So what I'm trying to say is when we design, we just don't design with delivery and deliverable in mind. We just don't stop with wireframes, with sketches, with prototypes, and it's a done deal. Tapos na yung trabaho ko. But we have to design with delivery because we want to know how is our users um, welcoming or what is their feedback towards the design that I did. So, in short, according kay Joshua Porter, we can't stop at deliverables. We must extend through delivery. So once you are done with your deliverables and it's out there live and it's launched, hindi ka lang natatapos doon. You go ask your PMs, you go ask your team or customer support if you do have one. Ask them what is the impact of the thing we build. Is there any complaints? How can we improve? What's the data? What is the number? So that's how we should deal with that's the kind of mindset that we have when we talk about design with delivery. So basically those are the, I don't know if I'm quite too fast. Okay. So basically that's the uh 5 points or 5 mindsets. One is you have to design with why, and you can achieve designing with why if you throw the right questions. Second is you have to design with North Star, but execute in phases. And as a product designer, you're not just there to shoot the moon and the stars, but you have to plan how you can execute it. And you can do that by chunking down chunking down those designs into phases. Third, you have to have a mindset wherein you design with extremes, like designing for extreme users, and so on and so forth. Then fourth is to design with consistency. Remember about don't reinvent the wheel. And then second is don't reinvent the wheel, but you can refine it. And third is as much as possible, make every interaction consistent. Because if you don't make the interaction or the design consistent, ano mangyayari? It would give worry or anxiety to our users. Kasi hindi na nila sure na ano bang mangyari kapag clinic ko tong button na to or kapag nag-checkout ako. And lastly is we have to design with delivery in mind. We just don't stop with the mock-ups or we just don't stop with the sketches, but we have to extend our arms out there. Once nandun na yung design natin or product natin sa wild or in the audience, we have to ask how are things, what is the feedback, what is the data. And if there's one thing na pwede nyo tandaan at kalimutan na lang yung the rest, it would be definitely the first one. You can leave out the 2, 3, 4, 5 and just focus with number 1. It's very important kasi if you know to design with why, or if you have the mindset of designing with why, then the 2, 3, 4, 5 is something that will just follow. Now, if you the actually in product design, it's about parang once you go up the ladder, you just don't think about ano na the user per se, the design per se, or how beautiful the visuals is. It's more about the holistic na from end to end. And definitely it's about throwing out the right questions. Ano yung problema? Bakit ito naging problema? Um, what are we looking into? What are we trying to achieve? So, yon. If there's something that you can take away from this webinar, it's the number one. You have to learn how to design with why. So basically, that's the 5 mindsets of a product designer. I hope you guys learned something. So again, I'm Riel, and thank you so much. So, yep, that's all.
All right, thank you so much, Trail, for that wonderful
Mhm.
session. I think we I personally learned a lot from that, and
Mhm.
especially those who are just beginning to learn about product design, because we've been getting requests from a lot of people to talk more about product design, UX, and such. So maybe in our future sessions, we will, with the help of Riel and people in the field of product design and UX, to help, for example, product graphic designers transition to UX, because that's the common feedback that we get as well. Paano ba magsisimula? How
Mhm.
do we start? Um, and guys, just remember the comment section will always be open for your questions. So for those who were not able to send in their questions, you can definitely keep on commenting. And for those who are watching us after this event, you can still use the comment section to send in your question. All right. So
Mhm.
yeah, Real, thank you so much for that wonderful session. So
Thank you.
hopefully
Yep.
you can join us again next time to talk further
Sure.
into design. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, I also just want to add that next week we will pause for a quick break. We'll try to also regroup and think plan our next sessions for the weeks to come. We want to be more
Mhm.
specific, so we've done the introduction part. So siguro on our next session we'll delve into the details, and really give you an opportunity to actually learn the field from someone from a practitioner who's been doing this for years. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. So guys, don't forget
Okay.
like and share, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our the videos of this event and our past events will be there forever. And thank you so much for joining us, Riel. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you, Louise. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and
Mhm.
see you again next time. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.